So I basically figured out, right, like why some men, some trans attracted men, I figured out why men are attracted to us. Now, there's different reasons why, attracted to trans women specifically. But I'm going to go ahead real quick and say this because I kind of figured it out. I know a lot of people don't agree with AGP, but there's a lot of trans women or queer people that identify as AGP. I see it more of as a phenomenon that happens when you are raised under homophobia and transphobia, which is, queer phobia or whatever, So my conclusion is based off my research. If you do extensive research, I'm using some of the older lingo, but so basically, if you have a dissociative identity disorder / transvestic disorder, which is basically what makes transgender people, that's the old terms and whatnot, but check me out. There's some form of it that's true, because you come to find out that they say the only people that are attracted to transvestic people are transvestic people, which is interesting because if you think about the 3 stages of AGP, autogynephilia, right? You can think of it. I got this really from I'm trying to remember her name. Her name was Strawberry Milk Christina. She cut her channel off or whatever on YouTube, but still, very good information, which is true. She says there's 3 stages of AGP is when you're a man, and there's actually 3 stages, but in each stage, there's 2 parts to it, which is so true. So you have the beginning stage, and then the acceptance stage, right? But in each three of the stages. So the first stage is when you're just a man. And in so many words, the first stage, you're okay, you don't really know anything. You don't really know about queerness. You're just suppressing, basically. You're suppressing. And then something happens to where it awakens you, or at least you're attracted, or you or you're not sexually attracted, but you're attracted, you have the inclination to be around it, to observe it, let it entertain you, you know what I mean? And that's any form of queerness, right? And then you have part 2, which is basically when you start to act on that queerness, and more or less you probably cross-dress, right? You're cross-dressing, you're trying things out, you really don't know, Then there's a second part to that, part 2, where it's you're a cross-dresser or gender fluid, right? This is usually what happens. Classic case. And this is why a lot of AGPs transition when they're a little older or whatever, right? But we live in different times now, so it doesn't really apply to everybody. It only applies to people that think in an olden way. You know what I mean? If you grew up and you had a lot of homophobia around you, transphobia, queerphobia, then that's probably how you think. And if you're trans, this is probably what happened to you. And then you have part 3 is when you start taking the hormones. Usually it's hormones. Or you socially come out as trans. And then the second part to that part 3 is you basically getting affirming surgeries. Basically you do anything that's irreversible. Even though hormones can be irreversible in some aspects, overall it's not completely. But yes, you do things that are irreversible. That is the 3rd stage for an AGP, right? And the thing I find the most is that these guys, because back in 2016, I didn't understand why so many guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, so many guys in porn that just love to get boinked by trans women. I thought that was so weird, and I hated watching those videos, and for me personally, it was a form of transphobia. Personally, why? What's wrong with that? It's whatever. I don't really care. Now I'm more open to it. Or the idea. I get it. But when it comes down to these guys that do this, in my experience as a trans woman, right? openly out trans women, non-binary trans women. It's crazy because, like, these guys are the most homophobic, the most macho, most transphobic. You know what I'm saying? And then they like show you their ass, or they want you to blink them, or they start like femdom like mommying you, like, oh, you know, not literally, but you know, like they'll start acting all like puppy dog around you, or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, they're AGP. But it's not like they're going to actually... And the thing about it is what's crazy. You can be in each stage and it doesn't mean anything. You can be in every single stage. You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't really believe in the erotic target location error. You know? Like you're attracted to yourself as a woman. I don't think of it like that. I don't think of that part. For me, I'm using the modern science when it comes to you as being born this way, but it's so hard for you to like think that way because it's hard for you to think that way because you grew up in a homophobic, transphobic society that did not agree with you or agree with that, and so your brain couldn't even like get a chance to formulate a self of identity, right, based off of characteristics about yourself. Because it was being shunned. It's wild. Imagine you're a trans woman, you know, and you have cis women and cis men. You're around them all the time, and you just don't have the outlet to like express that side of you. You're never gonna get there, especially if you tell yourself you're never gonna get there. You know, or you shouldn't be going there. You know, and so a lot of these guys I feel like are just basically AGPs that are attracted to trans women because, you know, it's like they can't be a trans woman. And then the crazy thing about it is you can be at any stage and stay at that stage, you know, because but it's of course going to be the second part of the stage, not the awakening part, right? The realization part. You're going to stay there. So there's a lot of men out here that are weird, that are attracted to trans women, right? On a like emotional, personal level, like. We're vibing, like we're two peas in a pod. Like they understand how we feel. They express themselves through us, you know? But it's crazy because they don't know how to deal with it, you know? And because they've been told gay their whole life, they like, and sexual perversion, all they think about is literally like sex. And that's all they can think about is sexualizing us. It puts us in these very awkward sexual situations. Very awkward. And it's crazy. It's crazy because a lot of these dudes, they get their rocks off basically by like with other men. You know? More or less, they probably experimented before. You know? And so you see a lot of that going on. You know? Hold on. But yeah, you see a lot of that going on, and a lot of the times they like, you know, are accustomed now to like the gay community. And so you'll have like a lot of people, you know, that are basically DL, right? When it comes to the LGBT community, and they don't know how to deal with it. So some chasers are really trans women. Some chasers will never transition. They'll just want to admire, you know, they just want to be an admirer. But here's the problem. The problem is they never, because even as a trans woman, fully transition, not fully, but you know, like on the last stage, I really just need to like basically get surgeries to some degree, or like go on real hormones, more or less, right? But I'm visible, like people can clearly see. It's not because I wear a bra. In fact, I'm wearing a smaller bra now because the first bra I had was too big anyways, you know. So it's like, it's kind of crazy because you can finally see now that a lot of these guys, you know, they probably trans women, cross-dressers, are their dudes. That's usually what they are. They're either trans women, cross-dressers, or dudes. And cross-dressers could be queer. You know, because I mean, you have some guys that are obviously queer, and they're the ones that hate us the most because they just see us as like, oh, I can cross-dress too, and it's like that's not what's going to happen, and that's the problem. It's just the toxic masculinity that people put on themselves. I realized that a lot of guys, like me growing up, I always tried to like be hyper masculine, and it was like too much. I put myself in stupid situations, you know, just put myself in harm's way. And I realized a lot of my guy friends, you know, they didn't really do those things. Like they weren't going to do it, you know? And I realized it's because I was putting that toxic masculinity on myself, you know? And so those guys that do that, and they're attracted to trans women, they're the ones that are dangerous. You don't want to be around them. They're really mentally messed up. And that's just the truth. And I'm so happy with myself because realizing that, you know, I was molested when I was a child, and like that made me angry throughout my life, and I didn't really know. Now I'm in a place where, you know, I could literally just I can stop being angry all the time. You know? It's weird to fight without anger, to fight with a clear head, you know, with determination. I feel like Vegeta when like he finally became Super Saiyan, like I feel like King Harold from like, you know. So that's what it feels like. It's like I'm not angry anymore. You know? You know, I'm not angry anymore. And so now I can actually like think. I don't have to like be angry all the time. I just need to learn what I need to learn. You know? Like learn how to maneuver, learn how to deal with these men, learn how to deal with the transphobes, with the transphobia. Like, it is what it is, you know? Because I have people at work right now that are kind of like treating me better because they're kind of realizing this is who I am. And I stopped wearing so many bulky clothes because it got warmer, you know? And like, they kind of can see my silhouette and they're like, oh, he wasn't just wearing, you know, like a bra because, you know, he wanted to look cute. He actually needs a bra, you know? Like, so now they're like being nice, but I don't really trust that at all because, you know, anything can set these people off at this point, you know? What I mean by that is they probably grew up thinking Garfield was real, you know? Their parents probably told them some you know, some nonsense brainwashing thing, and now if you tell them some type of reality, they're gonna like try to attack you. So it doesn't matter. Like those people, they didn't even apologize really. They're just kind of being nice, say hello. They're like, you know, I don't really care at this point. It's not for them, you know. Even on an aspect like Trump said, there's only two genders. America, if you want to think that that's what you're gonna do, then do it. I don't care anymore, you know. It's not. What's real is real, and what's not is not real. And I don't care, like what like society, what the powers that be want to do, because it is what it is, you know. It is what it is, you know. I wish things were better. I wish things were different, but I really don't care anymore. I'm at that point right now. I don't care. Like, I'm happy being me. Like, realizing that, like, even having suppressed memories, like, resurface. And realizing that, you know, I'm whole. Like, I'm okay. It's like you're not a sexual deviant because you were molested by multiple women in your family, that it didn't make you like jealous of women and see them in a power position, and you wanted that power for yourself. You didn't know how to be powerful without being a woman, and transitioning and stuff like that. Like, all those excuses are gone. That's what they say, because they're toxic masculinity, and it's only toxic because they're not really real men. They're not really real men. And if you really think about it, nobody's a really real man, because they're gender roles. You're trying to live up to something, not for yourself, not because this is your innate reactions or actions, but because you're trying to satisfy a situation. And it usually has to do with the powers above you, not, God or whatever. Think about, the powers that be, the government, and they just want to rule you. So that has nothing to do with nothing. Clearly we know this throughout history. It has nothing to do with nothing. And so that's where I'm at right now. Society might sit there and see me as a man, because of my outward expression. But I feel safe now to go forth in my transition. Like, I really wanted kids, like, even now, because it's crazy because I always wanted kids because I always thought that was like my life purpose, or life's purpose in general, to grow up, get a good job, have kids or whatever. But now it's like, how can I do that when I am the way I am? And it's like, I might still meet a good female and maybe have kids, but like, on a reality tip, like, how can you? A lot of trans girls that be with like these girls, they don't really care for them. They don't really care for them. They kind of just see them as like, they're chasers. These girls are chasers. They're just, a little more clingy, like have the same sexual partner. So it comes across as maybe this is a relationship, but to me it's not. And then when you try to get a girl who's, a little bit more conservative or whatever, like, she's always going to play her role as the wife, and expect you to play the role as the husband. And it's not going to work, because you're going to agree, right? Because she doesn't know anything else. You're going to agree because you want to make her happy. You want to make sure your children are happy, But when it came down to it, it's like, you can't live up to something that you aren't. You just aren't that. You can't do it. I'm laughing because I'm just thinking about Dragon Ball Z. Like, I don't know why. I'm thinking about Goku, and I'm just like, it's like Goku. Like, Goku's like a monk almost. He lives in the mountains, like, live in the forest. Like, he's a martial artist. He always constantly gets stronger. He knows he has to defend the world. So it's like, you can't expect him to always be in his children's life like he just works at the office, So that's basically what I'm saying. Like, I don't see myself actually in those positions. And I think the reason why it hurts me so much inside is because I think it's really just because, like, one, like I said before, the toxic masculinity. I'm trying to put all this on myself. Like, I'm a man, I'm a father. Like, I have to, it's all on me, It's not even like that. Like, literally, And then it's like, I think I wanted to do that for other reasons, like, for like the society, like, just to be like, look, I did it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not an evil person, Like, I have children myself, People do that. They use children as like a scapegoat to be like, look, I'm a decent human being. I started thinking about it because, like, my dad, growing up, I'm gonna be honest, big black guy, dark skin, he was an immigrant. So, like, he didn't really, like, probably didn't feel comfortable walking around town and people were just looking at him he doesn't know what's going on exactly. So he always had like us around to like speak better English, number one, or number two, like just think about it. You see a guy walking out of the grocery store, you're not going to question if he stole something if he has 5 kids with him. Like you're not going to do it. You can be like, oh, that's just a dad. Like even for me, And I know this because I used to take care of my nephew a lot, like babysitting, but like, I used to have him at my job. I used to have him at my job or whatever, and like, like people would be like, oh, okay, maybe that's his kid. They start to feel like, oh, you got kids, or, it makes you look like a decent human being, which is crazy because only the poorest class or the most uneducated people have a lot of kids. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. So, yeah, like, that's why it's like, it's kind of crazy, That's the reason why, I wanted kids when I was younger, but now, as I'm older, I'm gonna turn 32 this week. It's like I'm coming to the realization, it's okay, like the earlier you get this orchiectomy and you get the pearls removed, the more you're already set up, And if I do have to go on like the real hormones or whatever for like at least a year or so, like, I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to do that. I need to do something for me. And this is like the first time I've actually wanted to do this. And so I'm ready to do this, I think I can put that away. I mean, I could get, my sperm, but I don't even think that's going to happen. It's expensive to keep it in there, and I don't see it actually happening. Somebody in my class, in my caliber, I'm like the poorest class right now. I don't see it actually happening. I'm not prestigious. I have nothing, So, this is something I'm thinking about. Anyways. All that kind of goes away. All that fake toxic masculinity. That's why it's like, these guys haven't got rid of it yet, I even heard somebody before talk about this, He said he was, hold on. So he said he was trans-attracted or whatever, and, he said you really don't, in your 20s, you like, are like, man, this is crazy, and you kind of like are in denial about it, Then in your 30s, he said you realize this is what you like, and in your 40s when you actually like prepared and ready to actually like just be with her, And I was like, oh my god, it's exactly how we are. It's the same thing. It's like AGP, So that's my take on it. I think that if you look at it from that point of view, I just think that it's easier to deal with, But I think a lot of guys that are attracted to trans women are just autogynephiles, in the first stage. And so they're kind of like in the first stage because they don't really, know, or maybe they don't want to like express femininity in a conventional way, Anyways, and I think a lot of queer people are also autogynephiles, and it's not, and I think a lot of these guys just don't sexualize it. They admire it, but they don't sexualize it. You see? So, that's my take on it. Catch you on the next one.